Right now, we swing it down to Austin and visit with our good friends at the Texas Public Policy Foundation and James Quintero, director of the Center for Local Governance with the Texas Public Policy Foundation, filling in for Chuck, who's out today. And James, glad to have you on the program.
Well, thanks for having me on. I can't promise to be as quite as good as Chuck, but I'll give it the old college try.
Well, as long as you can, talk to us a bit latest about the grackles, and if y'all are being attacked down there, then we'll cover all the bases there that Chuck does. Hey, for folks who we haven't had you on the show before, tell us a little bit about the Center for Local Governance with the Texas Public Policy Foundation.
Sure. So at the end of last session, we actually opened up shop, knowing that we have been doing so well at the state level, but we have been failing here in Texas in terms of local government public policy. I think when you look at things like spending, debt, taxes, regulation, all of these things are going in the wrong direction at the local level. And so I think everyone around here recognized that, and we actually opened up shop in July 2013 and have been laying the groundwork for what has turned out to be a fantastic legislative session from a local government public policy perspective. I think you've seen a lot of great movement here in Austin in terms of reining in local government excess, and we've actually been really thrilled with what the legislature's been doing.
Well, this has been a big debate topic, and you know that. You have some folks who have never talked about local control in their lives, who are now preaching local control, local control, local control. But many of the times it's because they want to, it seems, grow government on the local level, and really the state is trying to come in, and there's some bills out there that would actually address some that have passed, but that would address some of these issues, correct?
That's right. So what the left has done is they've been able to capture the term local control and use it to their benefit to grow government at the local level. And so what we've done on the right is start to challenge the idea that local control means local tyranny, because of course it doesn't, right? I think what we've tried to impress upon the legislature is that local governments are creatures of the state, and they are supposed to respect the primacy of the state. And what you're seeing in a lot of cases is that they just don't. When you look at things like fracking bans or plastic bag bans or these municipal regulations on how many trees you can have on your property, these are all things that I think are infringing on liberty under the guise of local control, that the state has a responsibility and a duty to step in and reassert the good government principles that are so well established at the state level. And so we've done a lot of work trying to push through some legislation that I think is going to have a big impact on some of this local control stuff, such as the fracking ban. As you know, the Texas House and Senate have come to an agreement on disallowing municipal regulation on fracking, because it is such a big part of the state economy, and it's so important and vital to the direction and the future of the state that we don't think it's a good idea that local governments can effectively ban an entire industry. And so the legislature has done a great job at reining in local governments on that front. We're also working on a piece of legislation right now that would rein in local governments on plastic bag bans. And I know this is probably a little too wonky and probably doesn't catch a lot of people's attention, but let me just say that plastic bag bans enacted at the local level actually violate existing state law. So it's not even about the policy of plastic bags. It's how far local governments can go in enacting their own ordinances, which contradict state law. And so there's a lot of things happening on the local level right now that we're doing our best to rein in. So
where are we at? I know the fracking that obviously has been passed. As far as the plastic bag ban, the latest I saw on that is that there were still some hang-ups. What are those hang-ups, and what do you kind of expect to see from the legislature on this issue?
So we're optimistic that some of the bills addressing the plastic bag bans will get through. I'll be honest, it's starting to get a little late in the game. We need to probably do a good push from the conservative side to, to bring this to the attention of the legislature, because there's so many things going on right now. Yeah. But I just testified on a bill last week in the Senate dealing with plastic bags, and I think the committee was pretty receptive to it. I wouldn't be surprised if it made it out of committee and made it out of the Senate. When you get to the Texas House, it becomes a little bit more problematic, but there's still a lot of bills in play which I think could rein in local governments on this issue.
We're visiting with James Quintero over the Texas Public Policy Foundation. James, let me ask you this. And when I was in Austin a few weeks back and I was visiting with lawmakers, I asked them where you draw the line when it comes to the local control issue, because smoking bans, for example. There is not a statewide smoking ban. But there are lots of municipalities that have passed their own forms of smoking bans that you've seen in different cities. Some of them go very far-reaching, in my opinion. You also have texting bans in some cities. You don't have, as of right now, we don't have a statewide texting ban. So where do you, in your mind, where do you draw the line between what cities can outlaw or ban and when they need to leave it up to the state?
Well, what we've tried to impress upon the legislature is that local control is a good policy preference, but the overriding principle that we should be using to make not only state and local public policies is liberty, right? Our public policy should be liberty-oriented, and to the extent that either state or local policies violate that principle, then we should go about and re-examine them. So, when it comes to things like smoking bans or texting bans, to the extent that they violate a person's liberties, then I think we really need to take a close examination and figure out whether or not government should be involved in that particular area.
Visiting with James Quintero, Texas Public Policy Foundation. Talk to us a little bit about annexation reform. I know something else that the Center for Local Governance has been talking about as well.
So this is actually probably the biggest issue that nobody's talking about. You have the House, who's just passed their version of annexation reform, and the Senate, who is just kicked out their version of annexation reform out of committee yesterday. And these two big major pieces of legislation would effectively address what we've been calling attention to, and that's involuntary annexation, which is effectively what cities use to feed the urban spending core by gobbling up these rural areas. And what you're seeing, particularly in places like San Antonio, is just these giant blobs amassing that are eating these outer rural areas to the benefit of the more urban central core, without regard to people's property rights. And so actually I think this is going to be a great issue that a lot of people are going to be surprised about when they learn about it, because nobody's talking about it right now, but very big pieces of legislation moving through the process. Very hopeful that it gets through.
James, we have a caller who actually has a question for you on something that they've been paying close attention to. And Gary, you're on with James from the Texas Public Policy Foundation.
Yeah, James, I'm glad to know you are out there. I'm real aware of you, but I had a question here. We've been kind of in a battle with the local water boards, the High Plains Underground Water District, and also in the North Plains Water District. And they've been really, trying to restrict our private property rights to use water. And the current board here with the High Plains Underground Water District, it's a little bit better than what the old board was, but they still have rules where they restrict you to only one crop, or to one crop, and if you go two crops, you face fines. And that's with using your own water. Have y'all come up with any, are y'all involved with that on the local, and they cry local control all the time, and they make the threat that if we don't control it right here at the local level, it goes to the state, and if the state steps in and something doesn't get done there, then they use the threat of federal control. You have any thoughts on that?
A few. So thanks for your question. Great question, by the way. What you're seeing across the state is the proliferation of special purpose districts. Again, a lot of this is being done under the guise of local control. And as you alluded to, what this means is an extra invisible government that effectively has the ability to tax and spend and borrow and infringe on property rights. We've called attention to the rise in the number of special purpose districts at the legislature. I'll be honest, I don't know that there's a whole lot of movement in that area yet. That one's probably going to be a multi-session effort. But the good thing about Texas Public Policy Foundation is we're not just focused on the legislature. Actually, my local government team in particular has an interest in doing a lot of interim work at the local level to try and either find problems and solutions or to build models which I can then take to the legislature and show folks best practices. So to the extent that TPPF can be a resource to folks out there who are interested in things like property rights and taxation and good governance, we want to be a resource to you guys. So please feel free to reach out and contact me. Happy to help research, data analysis, anything you guys need.
Yeah, Gary.
I tell you what, we may take you up on that. Actually, I belong to and we've been on Chad's show. I haven't, but my brother and some with a Protect Water Rights group here in this area. Do you have a number, a contact number? Or?
Sure do. If you go to texaspolicy.com, you can find my email contact, or feel free to call me at 512-472-2700.
All right, Gary, thanks for the call. Appreciate it. And James, appreciate you being on with us today. Tell folks where they can find, I guess they just go to your website to find out more about the Center for Local Governance, correct?
Yes, sir. Again, that's texaspolicy.com. Just look for our local governance tagline at the top, and you'll see all the good work that we're doing here in Austin and beyond. So. All
right. Hey, James, appreciate your time today, and we'll visit with you or somebody else next week over at the Texas Public Policy Foundation.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate your time.